light us up on Facebook and record us. I will go ahead and start sharing for just a minute and make it official. All right, hoping you all can see my screen here. All right, great. Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. My name is Rich Boudry. I'm here with my beautiful, lovely wife, Bethany Boudry, and mother of my two children. So happy Mother's Day to you and to all the other mothers joining us tonight. I'm also joined by David Schmitto and Melody McAllister, who's our special presenter tonight. So this evening, how it's going to go? It's going to be, these are typically small group sessions. So if you have questions, feel free to raise your hand or chat in the box. Bethany can reach out, or if Melody's okay, she can call somebody out and unmute their mic. But that's kind of how the evening goes. So for those of you who don't know what the organic learner is and lasting learner is, and Dave and I and Bethany, Dave is an author as well. I am not an author. We are just former teachers. So we are not as cool as Dave and Melody, who actually are, I'm amazed at people who can write books. They're like superheroes in my mind. But anyway, I have started a small company together. The two of us have started a company called The Organic Learner. And it's basically, we try to help people learn independently, help them become independent, lifelong learners. And we have made the jump to corporate life about 7 years ago. We started off as classroom teachers for 10 years. Sharing the classroom one year together, which was pretty cool. So that was kind of fun. Been in Georgia for the past 7 years, and I'm currently with Chick-fil-A and their digital learning department, helping them transform the way they do instructor-facing learning. It's now virtual, so you can imagine it's been my role and my team members have been pretty frantic lately. So with that, I'm going to kick it over. Dave, tell us a little bit about yourself and tell everybody why we're doing this.
Absolutely. No, sure. So first of all, my books, it doesn't make me smart. All I do, honestly, Rich, Bethany, is I take the stuff that you say, write it down, and publish it and take the credit for it. So I simply play the role of the middleman. And that's kind of why we do this whole thing that we're doing, to be honest with you, is because, was it 2 months ago when the world got flipped on its head? And we were all told that we're going to start living life and doing life, and our working life was going to change. I said, I have no idea what that means and how I'm going to do it. And in my day job, I am the executive director of curriculum instruction. I have principals and teachers that reach out to me to say, help, how am I supposed to do this? And I was stuck in a position where I was saying, I have no idea, but we're going to figure this out together. And then, because of our relationship, Rich, Bethany, we connected and said, let's just try to work through this together. Let's kind of record some of our conversations as we figure this out. And it's just kind of grown. It's been so cool. So we're at session 9 now, and we've had more than 150 different people sign into these live sessions, which is pretty sweet. And we're at like 1,500 people that have watched the stuff on YouTube, plus the Facebook stuff. I mean, people are picking this up because we're all in this together. We're all struggling with the same things and asking the same questions. Tonight, I am super excited though, because aside from the day job, that stuff that I get paid to do, I'm also the father of 4 kids, and having to balance all of the things right now can be a struggle. And I am kind of freaking out about what's going to happen when some of that structure and the schedule, and when the teachers stop saying, do this, do that, ends, and I have to kind of pick up where they left off and start to plan for the fall. And are there going to be gaps? Or I'm kind of freaking out. So super excited to have Melody on here today to show us the way, show us the light, tell us what's important and what we should just give up the ghost on. And I'm ready to take some notes.
Wow. Well, thank you, Dave. I'm so glad to be here, and I thank all of you for allowing me to be here. And it's okay. Like, that was my introduction, right, Dave?
You stole it. Go for it. Absolutely. Okay. So you're a pro. You know what you're up to.
Right. I was in public education since 2004. I've done homeschooling several years ago when my oldest was in kindergarten, and now when we moved to Alaska last year, I became a home educator again. And I've been doing this with all of my kids, 4 out of 5 of my kids this last year. And when the pandemic came and we were, I thought, oh, I got this. Like, I can do this fine. Like nothing's going to change. I was so wrong to assume that. Things did change, but just as an introduction, I do have 5 kids. My kids' ages are from 2, 5, 7, 8, and 11.
I'm going to pause you real quick.
Yes.
Because I already have so much appreciation. The fact that you had to look down at your notes for that. Oh, I feel you. You had to look and remember the ages of your kids.
Yes.
So this is real. Anybody that's questioning, this is real. That's real.
It is very real. In fact, also I forget their names. Like literally when I have to pull out their names, so I call them numbers. And I don't mean that as an ugly thing at all. It's just like, I know number 4 is different from number 5, but both of them go by L names. And I'm just like, so number 4, number 5, and number 3, that's what I do. But yeah, so I'm in home education right now, but I am also a public school teacher. I work with EduMatch Publishing, and that's kind of how Dave and I became friends too. And I do have a book that it just came out called The I'm Sorry Story. So yeah, that's who I am. I had to write my notes also. And so what I have to offer is just kind of like a real life version of how this may go. We're looking at all these different ways that schooling might happen in the fall. And honestly, it's very scary. I was even thinking about going back into the public school system next year, but I'm just not sure that with the load of having 5 kids and having to teach remotely, if that's a possibility. I just don't know that I could do that at this time. So I feel like being able to be a home educator is such a privilege and such a blessing. And like a lot of other home educators, I feel like we have a lot to offer those people who suddenly find themselves at home, parents who are at home, who normally have activities for their kids all summer long, but those things may not happen as we know it. So yeah, we're at home with our kids, and I know what it's like to be stuck in a rut and to feel like I have to keep my kids quiet all day as my husband works. He has a corporate job and he's on video conferences and calls, and so that's all a part of my day too. So regardless if you're a home educator all the time, if you're a public school educator, or if you're none of that, you're a parent and you're at homeschooling for the first time, I have a lot to share about that. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I've already got a list of questions, but I don't want to run with the questions yet. But I'm like the psychological, the emotional stuff. What's harder? What's easier? All that kind of stuff. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to pull some of that stuff out of you tonight as you talk, just to help me breathe a little bit, because I've been in education. I'm going to my 21st year. I taught middle school, and we were talking a little bit off air about middle school and how God bless middle school people, because that struggle is real. And teaching middle school, I taught 150 pubescent, hormonal, stinky kids. And that's nothing compared to teaching 4 of my own, when they're your own kids and you have to love them through it all, it is so different. And so I'm curious to hear your perspective as we kind of unpack this and untangle the mess. It really is a mess and beauty of working with your own kids, because that struggle is intense.
It is. And and I was telling you earlier too, like I have been a beloved teacher by many 5th graders in my life, 4th graders, 1st graders. I was the teacher that some people actually wanted to have, but with my own kids, sometimes I feel like they look at me like I don't know anything or have a clue. I miss the respect that I used to have when I was actually getting paid to do this. So, so if you feel like your kids are nicer to everybody else on the outside, or hey, let's just face it, I'm much nicer to everybody else's kids than my own. I say things to my own kids that I would never say to anybody else's kids. So it's a double-edged sword right there. But yeah, and tell me, do you want me to go ahead and share my screen and go right into it? Okay, awesome. So, and as I go through my talking points tonight, I just want you to know that I tried to put as much humor in this as possible, because because humor, it's we all need it in our lives. We need it as much as possible. And so so this is parenting encouragement from an adequately provisioned parent. I have 5 kids, but I am definitely not an expert in child rearing. I have a loud mouth, and I'm okay to share my experiences with others. So if you're feeling kind of lost in this, you're in good company. And I want to talk about tonight that you are enough. We are enough. We are blessed to have the kids in our lives. They are amazing, but we all need extra support. But if you are literally keeping your kids alive right now, then you are doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Everything else is gravy. And like most of you, I like gravy. I miss the gravy of life. And so we try to put that gravy in as much as possible. And that's what, I'm hoping to share a little bit about tonight. Oops. But when everything started hitting the fan and everybody found themselves staying at home, I thought, well, I have so much to offer. I've been at home all year with my kids, and people were panicking. I don't know how to teach my kids, and a lot of funny memes were coming out. And here is what just came to my mind. It's normal to have feelings of inadequacy. I have been a public educator for more than a decade, and with my own children, homeschooling them, the different grades that they are in, I have felt inadequate this last year. And it's, the fear of my kids falling behind is real. And now a lot of people find themselves fearing that as they think about the end of the school year and how is it going to look like next year. But I just want to encourage you that if your kids are consistently flushing after they poo, you are so ahead of the game, Come on, who's with me?
I'm laughing out loud right now because those of us who have ever taught anywhere in any school know that is a success. My last school I was at an elementary school, and we did not have classroom bathrooms. We had to walk the kids down the hallway, and I would have to literally go in after everybody went to make sure that was accomplished. That's not a low bar. For those people that think, oh, that's watering it down. No, this is a very, very high bar. If you can get your kids to do this, you're doing something. I love that. That's awesome.
I agree. I mean, seriously, it jars me every single time, and I should be used to it, but I'm not. So I really feel like if even these little things, don't compare yourself. There's a danger in comparing what your home looks like, what your home life looks like, what your kids are doing, what they're interested in. As long as we compare ourselves, we're always going to feel like we're shortchanging somebody or we're inadequate. So that's just my funny, humorous take on don't compare. You're probably way far ahead than you even think you are. All right. Oh, okay, yes, and I'm sorry, I'm not always the most techie person. But yeah, at-home schooling, it doesn't take very long. One of the best things about having kids at home and doing school with them is it doesn't take a 6-hour, 7-hour day. I was just asking my oldest, like, what are your favorite things about, being at home and schooling? And she's like, you get a lot of breaks, you get to play, and you don't have to worry about turning in something really fast. And I know that Rich and Bethany were saying that their kids are doomed because they're former educators. I know a lot of educators' kids feel that way because it doesn't matter if summer is here. They're still going to be learning, and that's how my kids are too. We're going to be learning. But the cool thing about at homeschooling is that if you just spend an hour or two a day and it can be divided out through the day, you've really hit more than you think. It doesn't have to be, we should not be trying to replicate a public school day inside of our homes. It's unnecessary to do that. That puts a lot of pressure on everybody, but it also steals a lot of joy. And even as a homeschooling educator right now, I do not try to replicate what I did in my classroom.
So
here.
Melody, can I ask a question right now? I know I'm already derailing. You've got the
little
package thing. So this is where some of the pressure is already kicking in for a lot of people. And I know it's for the last 7 or 8 weeks, it's been a battle for some people just talking about the length of time that we should be doing to do school. And so for example, in my current district, in my situation, in my state, most schools are in session for 7.5 hours a day. And I heard you say school doesn't have to take that long at home. I hear some people on one end of the spectrum saying, well, yes, it does. If the professionals say it takes 7.5 hours, then at home, we need to block off 7.5 hours for school. Then I have other people on the other extreme saying, no, just get the job done. You're at home. Most people kind of fall somewhere in the middle as they try to play this game. But I also, I understand the reality of life for a lot of us. You've got 5 kids at home and you're trying to juggle multiple grade levels, and it's kind of like that Montessori model all at one time. Your husband is working, you're trying to keep kids quiet. I was actually talking, she's going to hate me for saying this, so if she's watching this, turn it off, to my niece today, who was talking about some of the struggles she's having just trying to manage how teachers are trying to replicate. All of her teachers are trying to give her an hour's worth of work a day, and she's in high school, so she's trying to learn and do this 6-7 hours worth of work a day, and it's exhausting and taxing, and she's doing it alone and isolated. So how do you determine how much time it should take? I know that was a long question, but it's a battle we're all facing.
Right. I mean, the coolest thing about being an at-home educator is that you get one-on-one with your children. So I don't have like 25 kids in front of me. So that's why my day is so much shorter. I get to do everything with, it doesn't take that long to go through a lesson or to see that they're picking up what you're teaching them. And I have heard from so many parents. I am still very involved in like parent advocacy, and a lot of my parents that from former students, they still talk with me and ask me questions. And so many of them are just feeling completely overwhelmed with having multiple children, having multiple hours, having to share devices, all of these things. I mean, to say that your child should be in front of a Zoom camera for 7 hours is like absolutely ridiculous. There's no good thing that can come from that for any person. Like, we are fatigued as adults going through that. So asking children to sit in front of a device, if they even have one, is asking way too much. And I wrote a blog post about this last month, just on behalf of educators who feel like me, parents. If you see that your kids are feeling overwhelmed, and I'm talking about whatever grade level they are in, whatever age, you turn that computer off. You are the deciding factor. You are your child's advocate. And if you see something is not going well, then you make the change that is necessary. You do not need permission from your child's teacher. You do not need permission from anybody, because you are the deciding factor. And I do believe that most states are passing like legislation that says that nobody, you can't like harm a child's grade right now, because it's, I mean, and I can't speak for all districts, but it seems like the ones that have kind of an awareness that this is not the greatest way to teach kids, have it that, we're not going to fail kids at this time. And I know that there's a lot of stuff going on about that too.
One other thing too, what I've learned or observed, I guess, my high schooler, as parents, we may think our kids need to get up at 7 o'clock and start school like they used to, right? But my middle schooler, he really gets up 9-10 o'clock and doesn't really start his day until, I don't know, 11ish. And he may even pause and start again later on in the day, which is kind of like, as a parent, I'm kind of like, son, come on, why? I mean, what are your thoughts around that, as far as like not following the traditional length of school day,
Right. I mean, I don't think that you should. You're at home. I think that for educators to have this notion that they have any sort of control over what is happening in their students' homes is absolutely ridiculous. When you are invited into somebody's home, you are a guest. The things that you were able to do in the classroom, it's just not possible, and it's out of our control. I actually think that whatever your son is doing, if he's actually learning at whatever schedule, I think it's brilliant. And if it's working for your family, it's brilliant. That's how it should be. That's actually the beauty of homeschooling. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do it. I had told Dave earlier, he knows my whole long story of why we moved to Alaska, why we chose to have a less crazy life. We wanted to put our family first. If you have the privilege of being able to do that, do it. That's one of the best things about this time for a lot of people. It isn't a reality for many others, but if you're able to put that in place and your kids can learn at their own time, I think, your son is brilliant.
So it shouldn't go against the flow of that. I should feel guilty and try to push my son and cause more friction to get, if he wants to, as long as it's getting done, it's okay.
Right. Yeah.
And Melody, I'm going to warn you, this might be like a 5-hour webinar because you're on slide 1 and I keep going, but there's so much. Oh, okay, we're good. Okay, we're good. So I want to say something that you said that it resonated with me. I wrote it down, circled it, and starred it. Labels. I'm a big opponent to labels in schools. I think labels do a lot of harm, but you just threw out a label that I think was super powerful. You said that you are your child's biggest advocate during this time. And you went on and said it, talking about the teacher, but you never said that the parent is the teacher. The parent's primary role now is to advocate for your child. Don't try to replicate the teacher, be an advocate for your child. That is so huge, so liberating, and so empowering. And I appreciate just that simple phrase because it's resonating with me and makes me feel like I have direction now. My job is to advocate for my child. period. End of story. That's awesome.
Mhm. Well, I'm glad that resonates with you, and that's always been absolutely how I have felt, even as a public school teacher. I wanted every single parent to know that I bow to them. What they have to offer to their children is much greater than what I contribute. I only have their children for a small time in the school year, and I do my very best, but what they bring is also very powerful. And right now, parents, they have to know that they are number one here, that they are so appreciated. Without them, there has to be that connection with parents and teachers for any of this to work. And the parents are seeing what we normally see through the day as their teachers. When we see a child that is feeling overwhelmed and kind of losing focus because of whatever is happening around them, as their teacher, we see that and we slow down, we make adjustments for that child. But parents have to do that for their kids because we can't always see that. And so it is especially important. And really, honestly, I maintain this, like, our number one goal as parents is to keep our kids alive. I mean, if you look out the window, there's a pandemic going on. Some states are being hit way harder than others. On the East Coast, it's ridiculous right now. You're going to have kids that are dealing with family members who are sick. You're going to have kids that have lost parents when we come back to school next fall. I mean, if we don't take that into consideration, we are failing, honestly, as a school system, and so we really have to bow to parents at this point. So, and I just want to say, as we go into the summer break and the schooling option is gone, I just encourage everybody, throw out the curriculum. This is a great time to follow your children's passions, whatever they are. And you can put all content areas, writing, reading, math, like it all goes together. I have as a teacher, I've had to go through curriculum so many times. Even picking out my kids' curriculum with their homeschooling has been something. I feel like if you really want your kids to learn and retain that learning, whatever they're doing, it really should be their focus and their passions that lead you all the way through. And right now, you can do that with your kids. If your kids have wanted to create a YouTube channel, let them, with you there. Obviously, you need to have some limitations or whatever, boundaries and stuff like that. But like, the creativity should be encouraged right now, letting your kids play. Like, it shouldn't be so much about content right now. It should be about keeping your kids healthy, mentally, spiritually, physically, and just allowing them to develop curiosity and go with that curiosity. That's the beauty of our situation right now. And the beauty for those of us who have the privilege of being able to be with our kids throughout the day. And something else, I think it's so, Dave, did you want to say something?
I do, but I'm going to pause because I'll wait till after you're done with this slide. Something,
Okay.
again, it's percolating inside, and I think it's going to bubble up with this. So this is good.
Okay, cool. Well, and something that I learned, especially in this last year, is that, you don't have to have a desk. I think it's so funny. A lot of my homeschooling friends, they seem to have desks and they have designated areas for schooling. And I try to also, actually, in the room that I have, I try for it to be homeschooling. It doesn't usually work out that way. Kids like to be at the kitchen table. They like to be outside. Learning is happening everywhere. And so, the kitchen table, it's great for eating, but it's also great for puzzles and drawing and talking and sharing as a family. So I think the kitchen table, and when we first moved to Alaska, we lived in this really tiny little duplex, and there's 7 of us. It was so ridiculously small. And we got this tiny little table, actually the table that I'm on right now, and it didn't even fit all of us, but that became where we were, the couch and the table. So, excuse me. And I think that if you can go outside and you can throw in some great vocabulary like photosynthesis when you're looking at the plants, or if you're identifying trees or whatever's happening in nature, learning is happening, and those things are going to be remembered. Those are some powerful conversations to have with your kids.
So if it's okay for me to interject right now.
Yes.
So I'm looking at this now through multiple lenses. I'm the parent of 4 kids, and you're saying a lot to me, but I'm also wearing the hat of professional educator. And one of the awarenesses that I've had over the last 9 sessions, 8-9 weeks of all of this, is that for a lot of my professional career, I've looked at those two labels that I have on myself, as though they're two separate lenses in which I have to look at educating my kid, as though those two things should not intersect. But what I've learned over the last 2 months is that those two worlds do indeed intersect, because my responsibility as a professional educator is to give all of the kids who professionally I am put in charge of or empowered to lead in the same situation and to succeed as I would my own 4 kids. And I have to look at it as though if it's good enough for my 4 kids, it's going to be good for the 2,500 kids I'm responsible for, and vice versa. And this slide right here, I think, is so powerful for me. And it takes me back to a time when I was an elementary principal, and I remember going on a home visit with a teacher to visit a parent, and this was a Title I school, lots of poverty. And the teacher was sitting down with the parent of a struggling kid and gave some guidance to the parents and said, I think your child will see more success if you create a space here at your home that resembles school. If you could set up a little desk in a quiet space. And I remember the parent saying, actually, I think my child would be more successful if you set up a space in your classroom that was more like my home. And I was like, oh, snap. And I wanted to step in, but it was, yeah, absolutely. And that led to this transformation. We started getting couches and all the soft furniture and all that kind of stuff. You're right. Let's make school more like home, because our job is to prepare kids for the real world. And how many of us right now are in this real world where we're teaching and living and working from our couches and our pajamas and whatever. And we don't have to replicate school. Help your kids learn in the real world. You know, even going back to your last slide where you talked about throw away the curriculum. My fancy official title is Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction. But I know what you're saying. You don't have to connect the dots all the time. Just let your kids learn and help facilitate those learning opportunities. You're spot on with this, Melody. Keep going.
Well, thanks, Dave. I appreciate that. And just as a father of 4, like, you have my respect completely. You know, every parent in this room has my respect completely. But yeah, in fact, when I was in my classroom, I always I wanted my classroom to feel comfortable like home. As a parent, that was kind of like an aha moment that's where kids like to learn. They like to be on the big comfy chairs and sofas with you, you know. And it's funny how just the difference that people can have with all of this. You know, the seating is different, but kids want to be comfortable. They want to have that cozy feeling for the most part. But of course, not all learners are like that. There's a very diverse, you know, set of people and their learning style. So I want to throw that out there too. But yes, a place of comfort is definitely where it all happens. And just some fun facts: 100% of people who compare themselves with others are going to be lacking or bragging about something. Home life looks different for all of us. And I have really found that when I compare myself with other people, I usually am always lacking. I hardly ever feel like I can brag about anything. Your home life is so different. There's so many different variables. Every single time I have tried to make some sort of schedule for schooling, it always falls through. Somebody is sick. The baby didn't go down for the nap at the right time, so I couldn't get math done in the morning. I had to wait till the afternoon. Like, it is okay. It is okay if it looks a little messy at your house. My house is always a disaster. I don't have this perfect clean home. Even if I did have a perfect clean home, it would not be like that for more than 5 minutes. So it's just, you know, don't compare. Everybody has a different home life. And of course, be flexible. These are not statistics that are scientific in any way, shape, or form. But as a parent, we've learned that almost all of the plans that we have that are wonderful are usually never going to happen. There's so many variables and reasons why they're not going to happen. So being flexible is going to save your life. You know, it's going to save your sanity. And being able to go with the flow, you're going to find what works. This entire year for me has been like a science experiment of finding what works for my family and what doesn't. And so I can't even imagine for those people who are finding themselves at home all the time without their regular activities, how it feels like. I've tried to put all these routines. I remember all the memes and all the routines and the schedules that were first thrown at us when the pandemic hit and we were all at home. And then people within the first week are like, this is great on paper, but it doesn't make any sense for me. And I was like, yeah, because I've gone through that, you know, what we want to do. And routines are amazing things. They're powerful. They're beneficial. But what is it about the routine that works is the consistency. You know, it's being able to consistently find what works for your family. And if it doesn't work for your family, then throw it out. Don't do what somebody else is saying for you to do. Do what works for your family. That's what I have learned through this entire experience. And And I've changed 100 times. So if you're feeling like, this schedule isn't working, so you've changed it for the 15th time, that's fine, because you're doing your job. You're doing a great job. And this is real life.
So can I ask a question kind of to play
Yes.
devil's advocate?
Yes.
Okay. So you might have some people out there that say, okay, this is all good for you, Melody, but the real world is competitive. In the real world, there are some parents out there that are pushing their kids, that are making them wake up every single morning. They're prepping for the SAT and ACT now, knowing that they've got an extension to the fall because they're going to go out there and kill it. And they're going to be taking my kids' scholarship money. They're going to be taking my kids' ranking in the class rankings if I don't start cramming the curriculum down their throat now. Yeah, it might be easier right now, and I might survive. My kids' mental health might be better, but academically, they are going to be left behind their peers. Is there a good response to that?
I mean, that's just reality. I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right about that. You can go to the other end of that and push all the curriculum you want. You can push your kids. Will you win? Will your kids win in the long run? I don't know. I mean, really, we don't have any answers. And for many people, like, their home life is always about routines. They have already established routines that work. And for those people, great. And if they are able to teach their kids and push the curriculum and be successful, then that's what works for them. I don't think that's a bad thing. Should it be about competing with other people? Well, in the real world, yes, it is about competing with real people, other people. And I mean, as a scholarship recipient myself, I was competing with others when I was in high school. So that is legitimately a concern. And you have to do what is best for you and your kids. However, every single thing we do could have an opposite effect. It could affect your family in a negative way. Are you strong enough to say, this is not happening right now. This is not a good thing. This is hurting my child. I want to scrap it. I mean, as a parent, we're always operating through that lens. As a teacher, we're always operating through that lens. So looking at the payoff is definitely legit. Go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say, it goes back to that defining label that you gave us early on. You have to be that advocate. And what I think I hear you saying is know what your child needs. And you are the one that knows what your child needs more than anybody else. Other people can throw out the expectations that they think work best for your kid and your family, but you have to be the one strong enough to say, no, here's what my child needs. And your child might need that extra push and that extra nudge and might need 8 hours a day of structure. Okay. Most don't, but your child might. Other kids might just need a hug every single day and some support to let them know that it's going to be okay. Is that what I'm hearing you say? Know your kid and speak up on their behalf?
Yes, and absolutely. You said it even better than I could. I probably wasted like 5 minutes of talking. You said it absolutely right. I mean, yeah, our kids need different things. The routines that each family has are different from each other. That is why we cannot compare them to what other families are doing, because we have different human beings in our house and we have a different ability to be there for our kids. Some parents are working full time. They cannot take 2 hours until their day is over from work to spend with their kids. You know, as I get to work all day with my kids and I get to work. Like, I have a very flexible schedule. So it's going to look different for everybody.
You know, I found out too that between both of our children, they both have different routines, like even amongst themselves.
Yes.
in our home. One is much different than the other one. And so I with 4 children, you know, that's gotta be 5. Well, with our 2, it's easy because we only have 2. But I could imagine with more than 2, and both of ours are in middle school and high school, so they're pretty independent. I couldn't, you know, trying to find that balance between letting each child have their own routine, but yet finding consistency. That's a tough balance when you start to get multiple kids at younger ages. You know, that balance is gonna be tough.
It is tough. I mean, and I'm not sitting here as a person that has found it, you know, and that's what I want parents to know, that if you are struggling right now, you are in good company. You know, I'm a professional. I'm a you know, an educator. I'm a parent of 5. Like, I should probably have a little bit more ability to do this. But what I offer is just that you just keep trying. You know, you have to find what works for you. And even when you find something, it may only work for a couple of weeks. I mean, that is literally how real life goes. What the school offered us was a routine that was very easy to navigate with. It was a day that we could take our kids to school. We did our jobs, we picked them up, we did our extracurricular, but that has all been blown to pieces at this point. And so finding a routine that works is a struggle, and it could still be a struggle whether you have one kid or whether you have 9. We're all finding this. So I just want to put that out there that you're trying to find consistency, but if you're struggling, you're in good company. And I want to say that I want to just be completely transparent at this point. Last week I was feeling really heavy. We were in just such a rut. Every time I listened to my kids talking, it was like they're calling each other idiots or, just being horrible, and shut up was just rampant. And these are some things that we have had to do and put into place to get our focus back to where it should be. And I think now as summer comes and you're not having that diversion of school or even the teacher coming in, you're going to be with your kids even more than you have been. So for those of us who do have a partner, which we are so blessed to have, and even some of my friends that are divorced, actually their relationships with their children's other parent has actually improved. And some people are saying like we have had to be more cordial because they have to find something that works. So whether you're with your children's partner or not, like finding a way to be intentional with your kids, that's something that my husband and I have had to have some good conversations about. Like they're loose because we have escaped in our head. Like I might be on social media for too long, or he might be working until 9-10 o'clock at night. And so our kids are feeling like they're just without any supervision, and we're just getting fatigued parenting, and it turns into something super ugly. And I think that's what we had to have a conversation about this last week. And then also setting the tone. So if we're feeling super impatient, if we're feeling super depressed, if we're tired, like all of that gets spilled out into our home. We are like, our optimism can be contagious or our negativity can be contagious. Right now, we have to have a lot of grace because that negativity can just, if we watch the news, if we're feeling like things are happening out of our control, it's so easy to feel negative. So we have to be very intentional with how we set our tone in our family. And then, family meetings, some of the best times that we've had are just watching movies together. Finally, the snow has melted. We've got to go outside and be by the fire. And just being outside and enjoying nature has been like a relief for us. And whenever my kids are like, that's Michael Jackson on the radio, because we listen to a lot of music, I feel like homeschooling is really working. They know who George Michael is. I'm just like so impressed with their 80s music knowledge now. I'm like, yes, I'm doing something right. So
that's
kudos
awesome.
to all the learning.
So that is your curriculum. You're really showing your kids the important stuff in life. S'mores, George Michael Jackson. I mean, you're nailing it. So that's awesome. And they're flushing the toilet every single time you go, like you said. You've got this down, Melody. You are a pro.
We haven't reached the flushing of the toilet consistency yet.
Okay. Well, that's all right. You're getting there. You know what you're striving for. But
yes.
Can I get kind of lost in the weeds here a little bit? You talk about consistency. What does your schedule look like? Is it every day? Is it kind of like just let's see what happens, or do you map it out in advance?
There are days where I do map it out, especially like if I have to speak in the morning or I have an engagement, like I'm more able to map it out because I have to get certain things done. But there are also days where we can wake up at 9 o'clock in the morning and we're all fine and eat breakfast and then the day begins. So that's the beauty of being an at-home, educator. But I will tell you that my kids, all they want to do, if you ask them what they want to do, they want to be on the computer all day long, and they want to play Roblox, they want to play Minecraft, they want to be on Tinker, so I have a couple of rules that I'm very consistent with. You have to do your math and you have to do your reading. And with reading, I throw all the social studies, I throw science in there. So I don't feel like they have to do 5 different things. I put it down to 2 because even science, I mix it up together. I'm like, as soon as you get your studies done and then you get your chores done, our kids have to do their chores. They have to sweep. They have to help me with the dishes. And after all those things are done, then they get to do the fun stuff, Roblox, Minecraft, whatever. But those are my consistent points. And I think it's hysterical because they still ask me, can I get on the computer? And I'm like, well, you know what you have to do. Like, I'm not sure why you're asking because you haven't done your chores. You haven't done your math. You haven't done your reading. And also something that we do to change it up is I have workbooks for my kids that we work through. I do a lot of vocabulary. I do a lot of Nearpod. These are like things that I did in the classroom that my kids also like at home. And so they like being online, but they don't want to be online all the time learning. So then they like to do the workbooks. So that kind of is a change up for us too. And I'm going to continue to do this through the summer because regardless if we ever go back to public school or if we just continue to homeschool for the next year, I want them to have what they need for the next grade level where they're going. Hope that helps.
It totally does. So I'm going to ask a question. Maybe this is a better question for the end of all of this, but I'm going to ask it now. So you're kind of determining your next steps for yourself professionally next year, but also for your kids for next year. And I know there are a lot of parents right now that are going through this thing, and some people are absolutely exhausted saying, my kids are going back to public school. The minute they say schools are open, I will be the first one in line to sign them up. But there might be some others who are saying, this kind of works for me. I kind of have a little bit more flexibility and I get to be with my kid more. As a parent, how do you determine whether this is working for your kids?
Well, that is a great question, and you're right. I have absolutely been thinking about this because my plan was to go back into the public realm next year. I really was just, I was doing this so our family could heal. And I love that you said that. There are families who are going to embrace this. They like it. Even though this is a crazy time, there are going to be families who are thriving because for the first time in a long time, they have felt together. They have eaten together. They have gone outside together. They have done things together that they never used to do because everything was pulling them in different directions. So for those families who are like, I like being at home, and for the kids that it's working for, again, as an advocate for your child, there are programs that you can, if you don't necessarily feel comfortable, being the teacher of your kids, there are online programs that you can get involved in. There are different co-ops with home education that you can get involved in. In Alaska, homeschooling is very huge in Alaska. So we are so blessed to be a part of a larger school system. And it's a little bit different here in this state though. But I just think you're right. You're going to find people that enjoy that. And then you're going to have the others who are ready to go back to school. All of that is just fine. Really, it's about what you see in your kids. For me, here's the thing. If I have to go back to school next year, but I have to be remote teaching, it's absolutely obtuse for me to even think that I could do that with 5 kids at home. Because not only would I be teaching a large number of kids, I would have 5 other people on the outside, and I would not be able to share. We don't have that much technology. It would be so hard on my family at this point. So my husband and I have decided, financially, how can we make this work? And what can we do to, how can I get some side hustles going on so that I can still contribute? But yeah, and we're not going to be, rolling in the dough by any means, but I had to make the decision that was good for our family. And that's what basically every parent has to do, including teachers that are parents. So.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I never even thought about that lens, because you might actually have some teachers, not necessarily parents, but some teachers looking at this saying, I was terrified, but this wasn't as bad as I thought it was. So I'm wondering, on the grand scheme, because one of the things I heard was don't compare, but yet you still have to have a measuring stick, don't you? You have to have some way to gauge whether or not you're on track, your kids are on track, whether or not you actually are successful. Because if otherwise, it could just be, honestly, turn on Price is Right. That's going to be your math lesson every day. Turn on Wheel of Fortune. That's your language arts lesson at night. And you could say, yeah, I'm successful because I have my kids doing stuff. But how do you know whether or not they're doing the right stuff at the right time, whether or not you're actually living up to your potential? That's the thing that I'm really struggling with. I honestly right now don't know if I'm doing a good job as a parent or as a professional. I'm surviving. I'm waking up the next day, but is that good enough? I don't know.
Right. Those are really good thoughts and really real thoughts. And honestly, I'm pretty sure your kids are doing great. But again, honestly, if our kids are alive and they're healthy, that is always our number one goal at this point. And if we're helping them with their mental health and their spiritual health and their physical health, we are literally doing an amazing job with our kids. We might not hear it. So if that's something that parents need to hear tonight, is that you're doing a good job, your kids are alive. If you're talking with them and you're having conversations, then you're doing a great job. But Dave, you're right. like there are things about schooling in a public school setting, or even, you know, the state, the standards. And if we think about that, that's when the fear starts coming in. Like, are we doing enough? And I totally understand that. And it's a legitimate fear to have that. And as a teacher, I feel like I have a little bit more to offer because I know those standards and I know what is expected, and I'm always working towards that. Now, do parents that are not really involved in school like that, do they have that same skill set? Probably not, you know. So they may have a fear that when their kids go back to school, like they're going to be really far behind. And I think that's absolutely normal. I think it's accurate, that there will be some sort of behind maybe. But the good news is they're not going to be by themselves in that. You know, when they go back to school, everybody's kind of going to be in that same, you know, like, I can't even find the words. Help
No,
me
you're
here.
right. Behind is a relative term, but if we're all tracking at the same speed, then who are we really behind? You know, maybe we're all going to be healthier. Maybe we're all going to be happier. Maybe we'll all have had more life experiences. I mean, will we have all done the same activities we would have done had we been in school, the same worksheets, the same textbook pages? No. But is that a bad thing? I don't know. I guess that's where we have to determine what our priority is and what really matters to us.
Oh, absolutely. You nailed it. Like, literally, what is our priority and how are we going to work towards that? You know, I want my kids to be very successful in life. I want them to be able to live wherever they decide to live, to be able to be a contributing citizen wherever they are, and to really make a difference. I want that more than anything. But right now, I just want them to be alive, and I want to live with them. And like, I keep thinking to myself sometimes, look out the window, there's a pandemic happening. Like, we are not living in a time where we have all the answers, and we don't really have a lot of data. We're still learning all about that. Something that I'm doing with my 11-year-old, she loves current events. And I say vocabulary because that's one of my most favorite teaching tools. And they have this thing about current events. I mean, there's so much social studies and science we're learning right now, just getting into the coronavirus, you know, and there's that natural learning that is really happening. Do we watch too much television? Heck yeah, we watch too much television. We're on our computers too much, all of us, you know. But I always come back to the point where we are alive. I am here with my kids, so I'm winning.
You know, that's a really good point. You know, when you think of the big picture, you know, and really focus on that, because it's so easy to get drill in on that just in the moments that you forget about the big picture and look at how successful things are possibly happening. You know, so you know, one other question I had, and this could be for Melody or for Dave, is something I kind of hear, and when I say hear, I hear through Facebook and through posts people are making, is two areas around this whole becoming a virtual, you know, staying home and working with virtual stay-at-home students, is this new math. Oh my gosh, this new math. How can I help them? Everyone's flipping out about the new ways we do math. You know, and we know what that is about. So they're flipping out about, I don't know how to do this new math. I have no clue. You know, I haven't seen anything like this. And then two, the technology part of it. Like, I mean, both of my kids are logging in every day to Canvas, and they're doing their thing. I could have, and luckily we're instructional technologists, so we know how to use this stuff. But you know, what have you both been hearing from, you know, or what kind of recommendations or advice would you give to parents that, you know, feel like they all of a sudden have to become ed tech specialists, you know, or new math specialists? You know, I got to learn everything before I can help my kids. What would you say to that?
I've got a lot to say about both. Melody, do you want to go first, or you want me
No,
to get
you
rolling?
go first, Dave. You go.
Okay.
You go first.
Let me just scan Facebook and Twitter and make sure that nobody that works with me is here. No. That's all right. There are some here, but they've heard me say it as well. It's all good. So let me address the new math piece first. And this is going to upset some people, but this is Dave speaking. This is not Dave by any official title. It is Dave speaking. Number one, the math isn't new, but I think one of the things that we're illuminating and we are bringing to the surface. Again, I've said that what we're doing right now is we're not necessarily identifying new problems. We're simply magnifying problems that already existed. We're putting them to the surface. One of the things I am noticing is first of all, teachers, you're doing the absolute best you can. I know you're always working hard. I'm assuming the absolute best from you. But with that, I'm also noticing that we are still in this rut of, with math, for example, kids have to do it the way that we taught it. And the whole new math concept isn't that kids now have to solve problems a different way. The idea is that kids simply have to know what the why behind algorithms and why problems work. And what I'm experiencing through my own kids, through my nieces, my nephews, friends, Facebook, is that kids are not necessarily doing math the way that the teacher has assigned it in a newer way. And they're still possibly losing points now because they haven't tried and adjusted to a new system, a new method, a new algorithm. That's not new math. That's still the way that we've always done things, penalizing kids for thinking outside the box and figuring out solutions to problems. That's not necessarily a parent issue or a student issue. That's still an us as an educational system issue. This is one of those opportunities where we have to say, kids, figure out how to solve this, and you come back and tell me how you did it. Prime example, I was talking to a student today who was telling me that they're assigned algebra work to do, and they have an app, and they simply throw the algebra problem into this app, and out spits an answer, and they're submitting it. And in a way, they're saying that's kind of the way it works in the real world, right? You get a problem and you don't know how to solve it, you throw it in an app, and if it comes back right, you're right. And there's a part of me that says, ooh, that doesn't quite seem right, but in the reality, it kind of is. It's on us as the system, as the educators, to come up with different problems to assign, different assessments, different ways to measure whether or not the kids actually know how to do the work. Because if a kid can go to Google it, then the questions are probably off. So that's one rant. In terms of the technology, this is an awesome opportunity for us to remove some of those barriers to entry that we've been experiencing for a while. I just talk about Zoom or Google Meet or whatever. I'm thinking next year, how amazing our parent-teacher conferences are going to be when we allow parents to choose Zoom meetings for parent-teacher conference as an option. And now we can actually see inside of a living room or a dining room, or see the whole family and the pets together. And parents don't have to worry about conflicting schedules. Or we've eliminated that barrier to entry now because parents understand this platform and know how it can be used for the greater good. So yeah, we're uncovering a lot, but there's also a lot of opportunities still.
I just want to say hallelujah, amen. I just went to church, okay? So for years, I have thought if I could do anything to change the system, there's so much about the system that is broken. What can I do within the system to break down some of those barriers? And like you said, I think this is a great opportunity for the education system as a whole to take down some of that stuff that just isn't necessary. The new math is, I'm just going to say that everything you said, Dave, I completely agree with. I have a lot of mathematicians in my life that speak into my life. Like, this is a time to discover math, to make math fun. And I'm totally going to be doing that with my kids. Like, they rebel against me sometimes when I bring up math. So definitely teaching them in different ways and exploring that is one thing. But the best thing about this is just blowing down some of the structures of the public education system that are just not necessary anymore. And I think that those are glaring at us. And I would hate if I did not bring this up, but another thing that we're seeing right now are all the equity issues. You know, there are so many kids right now that are not even online. They haven't seen their teacher in 2 months. I mean, I live in Alaska. Alaska is a state in the United States of America. I live in a state that not all people have running water in. If you think that they have Wi-Fi, then you're crazy. I mean, this is a state in our country. And I think that there are so many issues that are coming to the front. And if we don't address those are really important equity issues. And then you think about your teachers that don't even have great internet access. You know, I know teachers that are paying for extra internet so that they can fulfill their obligations in the classroom setting. And so what I love about this right now is just that we are seeing a lot of the things that we have failed at for years, but we can no longer ignore. That's my answer.
Right. Here's my little piece about the technology. I'll answer my question. Is as a parent, don't feel like you need to know all this technology. You don't have to be an expert in how to log in and how to do this and that. What I found as a parent, but where I first found this out as a teacher, a classroom teacher, I was so freaking out in the beginning that I had to be the one, that I had to be the technology expert in my own classroom, my own gen ed classroom. I had to know how to do everything, and I had to solve everyone's problems. I burned out quickly with that. So what I had to do is I had to empower my learners to just go figure it out and go do it. So as a parent, if you're dealing with all of these technologies, getting kids logged in, doing this to do that, hey, you just give the power to your student. Let them go figure it out. They'll figure it out. They'll reach out to a friend. I used to do something called C3 before me when it came to technology. Reach out to your partner next to you. Ask them before you come and ask me. So I would say the same thing, especially if you have middle schoolers, upper L, fourth, fifth graders. Have them text their friends. Ask them if they've had any problems with this technology, or how to solve this, or how to even answer this question on a test. So do that, and also let your student show you how to use the technology. Learn from them. So empower them. It's okay to take off your, I'm a parent, I know everything, and I need to show you how to do it, and I need to have full control over it before you can really do it. Take off that hat for just a minute and let them show you. Become the learner. Let them be the teacher.
Yes,
So
yes.
that would be my way I'd address that question in the home right now.
I think it's so spot on, Rich. I've said before, and I'll say it again. We call it cheating when a kid copies off their peer, but we give them an A when they copy off of us. I mean, it's the exact same thing. Encourage collaboration. Encourage kids to learn from each other. That is the real world skill we need kids to learn right now. You don't know it, reach out to somebody else that does. Parent, you don't know it, reach out to your kid who maybe does. It's okay. Collaborate, learn, and grow together. That's an opportunity right now. Grow together somehow, some way.
Love it. Spot on. Well, hey guys, it is 9:03, and I don't want to. If you are, I know we're at the end of our hour here. If you want to jump off, you can. We can hang on for a few more minutes and chat. But I know Melody on the what time zone is that? Pacific time zone, Alaskan time zone. It's
Alaska. We have our own time zone. So
wow, you're so far over. You got your own.
It's because it's always dark or it's always light. You just do your own thing, right?
Yep.
Nice.
Yep, it's crazy.
Well, we don't want to keep you too much longer either, because I know you're in the middle of your day. It is 5 o'clock in Alaska, so you probably have Mother Day things planned.
Yes, so, I have adult beverages planned.
That's right. It is 5 o'clock somewhere, and right now it's at 5 o'clock in Alaska. So, but thank you, Melody.
I'm going to plug Melody one more time. Number one.
Yeah,
Melody is absolutely amazing.
You're so sweet.
As a parent, as an educator, as a friend, and as an author. Put your book up there one more time, Melody.
Yes. And this is how you can find me. This is my book. I'm sorry. Can you see it?
Yeah, I'm sorry story.
Bethany is feeding it out right now for you.
That's awesome. Because she's not necessarily going to go out there and just plug it herself, because she's here to help us. So I'm going to plug it for her.
Yes.
It's absolutely amazing. Put it in that Amazon cart right now. I'm just saying it. Buy the I'm sorry story. It's awesome. And follow Melody. She'll inspire you. She'll make you laugh. She'll tell you what she's really thinking unashamedly. So follow her and keep learning.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate that. I've really enjoyed being on with you guys today and just letting me speak. But everything, I will say whatever I'm going to say. That's what it's a good thing. It's a bad thing. Whatever it is, it's me. But yeah, I've loved it. Thank you so much. And this has been a great platform. And I'm so glad that you guys are using it to empower parents. So kudos to all of you.
Before we leave, before we jump off, any quick questions for Melody before we leave? Okay, cool. All right, guys. Well, hey, have a great night, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again soon.
And happy Mother's Day to all the women out there.